face off against that man, Nathan Eovaldi. Well, John Jaso last night was cleaning up for the Tampa Bay Rays, and tonight he is leading off for Tampa Bay. Daniel Nava, a very familiar face here in the Bronx, many years with the Red Sox, DFA'd and picked up by the Rays. And Evan Longoria, now over 200 home runs in his career. Grady Sizemore on his path back to the major leagues. Logan Forsythe has dribbled Cabrera. James Loney swinging a hot bat right now, especially in this ballpark. It's over 400 in New Yankee Stadium. Kiermaier, who is on every highlight play defensively. And then Maile, in his first big league start, he has only one at-bat in his major league career. Made his debut September 1st in Baltimore. A look at the Tampa Bay Rays starting lineup from this one today. And Nathan Eovaldi, we mentioned the power, but it has been the splitter that has been his biggest turnaround, isn't it?
Well, yeah, there's no question about it. He's got the fastball. It's going to average around 96.5 miles per hour. A slider, a curveball that he likes to go with. Infrequently, a lot of times early in the count, but it has been the split. He has worked on that pitch, was working with Larry Rothschild in it during spring training, and as the season has moved forward, the pitch has gotten better and better. Same with his confidence, and the numbers reflect that.
Take a look at the defense behind him. One name that you won't see in the outfield, Jacoby Ellsbury, had to exit the game last night because of flu-like symptoms, had a very upset stomach. So Brett Gardner will be in center field. And an interesting look up the middle. Of course, you got Gregorius and Brendan Ryan getting the start today at second base. For years, one of the premier shortstops in the major leagues. And, well, if you ask the people here in New York, he's a pretty good pitcher as well. Spent 2 scoreless innings out of the bullpen not long ago. So there's a look at the Yankees defense. And it's a beautiful day. Temperatures right now in the mid-70s here from Yankee Stadium. As we're all set for first pitch, the Yankees and the Tampa Bay Rays. Game 2 of this 3-game series. Jaso to begin things for the Rays. And Eovaldi starts him off with strike 1.
Well, there's that curveball. Anytime you can drop that in early in a count, jump out ahead of a hitter, advantage pitcher, obviously.
Quickly 0-2.
Well, and I think what you'll see from this Rays lineup is that offensive turnaround. They're averaging over 4.5 runs a game since the beginning of August, and it has been a more aggressive lineup with a guy like Eovaldi trying to establish that fastball. As you would expect a lot of early swings.
You see there 98 miles an hour. He averages just under 97 miles an hour with his fastball. Jaso over the shift. And with 2 strikes against him, a leadoff single.
Well, you go with that 2-strike, elevate with the fastball, then try to come back with the split, but that ball did not have good action on it at all. Stayed up enough that Jaso was able to sweep it out into right field.
That really is the interesting thing with Eovaldi. You would think that with a pitcher who's consistently throwing 96, 97, that his fastball would be, well, close to unhittable. Opponents are hitting over 350 against his fastball.
Yeah, opposing hitters get a good look at that fastball. The arm swing of Nathan Eovaldi, you're able to follow it right to the release point, and so it doesn't jump on you like some other fastballs do.
First pitch strike to Nava. Longtime Red Sox. Designated for assignment by Boston, picked up by the Rays. At one point recently, abandoned switched hitting, was only going to be a left-handed hitter, but has since picked things up once again from the right side of the plate. It was interesting to hear Kevin Cash talk about how quickly his hitters were able to really adopt this very new game plan of don't wait pitchers out, especially if you've got a guy with a plus arm like we see here today with Eovaldi. Get on him and try to get on him early.
And I think that is a natural transition. I think hitters by nature want to be aggressive. They've got the bat. They're in the batter's box. They want to swing it. And so when you turn them loose, you see guys really adapt to that quickly, just like the Rays lineup has. And I'll tell you what, you look at some of the pitchers out there nowadays, with 2 strikes, the batting average against is so low. The number of strikeouts in the game right now, it's a disadvantage to hit with 2 strikes. So why even tempt it? Why try to get there? Attack early.
Kevin Cash in his first year, taking over for Joe Maddon, having fantastic success with the Cubs this year. Still 0-2 on Nava. there's no doubt the story this year for the Tampa Bay Rays has been the injuries. They lead the majors in disabled list stints. Last year, you think about the Rangers in the American League, the Rockies in the National League, and this year it has been the Rays that has been hung with that unfortunate stigma that, well, they just cannot stay healthy.
Well, and so they've had to ask a lot of guys to step in. And, you know, to their credit, you're in September. You're just 4.5 games out of the second wild card. A lot of guys have stepped up. You think about a guy, we talked about him already, Logan Forsythe, when the season started or going into spring training, the idea was for him to be, a platoon player out at second base with Nick Franklin. And Nick Franklin gets hurt late in spring. Logan is now forced to an everyday role. And like you said, maybe the team MVP.
John Jaso, who began this ball game with a single to right field, he was the first casualty for the Rays in his first at bat on a slide, and they had to miss a lot of time. I mean, it began that early for Tampa Bay this year.
It really did, and a guy that they brought in, strikeout there by Eovaldi, but a guy that they brought in to hit at the top of the order, good on base percentage guy. Not your typical leadoff hitter, but you're right. He gets on base his first at bat, a ball in the dirt, heads to second. Boom, down with the wrist and misses a ton of time.
The splitter getting Nava there, 1 out, 1 on. It brings in Longoria. Longoria, a home run last night, has homered in back-to-back games. In fact, 3 homers in those last 2 contests. Longoria now over 200 home runs in his career. Hit that mark on this road trip in Baltimore. And for the Rays, a very young franchise in the scheme of things, and especially compared to their opponent today, Longoria has really been the face of Tampa Bay.
And if they want to make a move, they're going to need Evan Longoria to play a big part of that.
Right to Gregorius. On to Ryan, and a double play. That'll end the top of the first. We make our way to the home half. 0-0. This Yankees starting lineup that leads off with center fielder Brett Gardner. Chris Young gets a start in left field. Alex Rodriguez last night, career home run number 681. And you see John Ryan Murphy doing the catching today. Didi Gregorius swinging an awfully hot bat. Brendan Ryan is at second base and rounds out the order today for the Yankees. Gardner in the leadoff spot with Ellsbury feeling some flu-like symptoms. Had to be removed from the game yesterday, and you can see the numbers here on Matt Moore.
Well, these are the numbers that warranted the trip back down to Durham, where Matt Moore made the proper adjustments and then finds himself back up here in a very meaningful game.
Tight to the line, then Oney keeps it in front of him. We're out number 1 in tumbling fashion.
I'll tell you what, the Rays organization, they pride themselves on pitching and defense, and a heck of a play here by Loney. The backhand, knock it down, realize you got a little bit of time, and then scramble to the bag, and how about baseball in hand, try to beat Gardner.
Well, Gardner can fly. You can see the effort from the Yankees leadoff man with the headlong slide. It's a good start for Moore. 2 pitches, 1 out. He faces Chris Young. Think back to Matt Moore, an all-star back in 2013. Took Yu Darvish's spot on the American League club. And really, his fastball velocity in his early days, I mean, he was humming it in there, upper 90s. With the shift on, Forsythe. Thanks for an easy play. That fastball velocity has come down, but he was still effective before the Tommy John.
Yeah, I mean, when he came up, it was an easy 95, 97. Now you've seen him here this afternoon, early going around 92, and he'll stay right around there, maybe get it up to 93, 94. But with Matt Moore, it's the deception. The ball gets on you quick, so he can throw a 93-mile-an-hour fastball, and he'll get swings that tell you that was harder than that, just because of the deception, good life on his four-seam heater.
2 quick outs. It brings in A-Rod. Now, what a difference a productive season can make. Alex Rodriguez, who was all but banished here in the Bronx. You can see his numbers here. A phenomenal season. Last night hit Career home run number 681, and now he is beloved here in New York more than, well, anywhere else. But no bigger cheers for any one of the Yankees than this man when he comes up to the plate.
It has been somewhat of a year of redemption for Alex Rodriguez, saying all the right things, doing all the right things, being a good teammate and productive. That always helps.
That's a big part of it, isn't it? Moore gets ahead 1-2.
Well, and that production has started to come down just a little bit, but you mentioned that home run last night. This is a team, when the Yankees jump out early, they win at a higher clip than any other team in the American League, and that's what he did last night. That's why it was a big home run.
High the opposite way. But near the line, and foul ball. Take a look at what he did last night.
Well, this is following a walk to Brian McCann and a breaking ball that just hung out over the plate. And when Alex Rodriguez makes that kind of loud contact, that typically is the result.
And the amazing part, you mentioned the loud contact. That was about as free and easy of a swing as you'll see from any big leaguer. And he had no problem parking it over the fence. Not exactly what Matt Moore was hoping for. 94 miles an hour that time. And a 1-2-3 quick and tidy bottom of the first. Through one as Grady Sizemore lead things off for the Rays in the top of the second. First pitch. Soft roller to Brendan Ryan. A nice start for Nathan Eovaldi, and for more on today's Yankees starting pitcher, we check in downstairs with Ken Rosenthal. Ken?
Well, Aaron, the Yankees wanted Nate Eovaldi for obvious reasons. He's 25, capable of throwing 200 innings, but their analytics department identified something else. Eovaldi's principal catcher with the Marlins last season, Jared Saltalamacchia, was the worst pitch framer in the majors. Eovaldi had much better numbers with the Marlins backup Jeff Mathis, and the Yankees believe that pairing Eovaldi with their catchers Brian McCann and John Ryan Murphy would prove beneficial. Now, neither of those guys is a superlative pitch framer, but they're both a lot better than Salty was a year ago.
That's interesting stuff, Ken, and we appreciate the insight there. You think about Eovaldi and what he has done this year, and there's no doubt that the wins, that's the one stat that stands out probably more than anything, Brian. You think about his first 79 starts of his career, he picked up 15 wins. This year he has 14 wins, and you mentioned earlier the run support for Eovaldi has been off the charts.
Well, the run support has been tremendous, but he's been throwing the ball great for the Yankees over his last 13 starts. We talked about that 9-0 record, the ERA 3.32. You'll take that all day long, especially with this offense behind you. Learning how to win games in the big leagues.
Forsythe, a fair ball tight to the line. And Forsythe is in with extra bases. Now the hits just keep on coming for this guy.
Well, I'm going to tell you, we highlighted him in the open about the Rays' most consistent hitter and talked about his quick hands, and that's what he's going to show here once again. I mean, Logan just is able to let that ball travel into the zone. He has such trust in his hands and trust with his pitch recognition. Let it get deep, and then boom, fire. And there's not a lot of wasted movement there, and he's able to sneak it down the line past Chase Headley. Rays' first scoring opportunity.
Tampa Bay was sat down in order in the top of the first despite a leadoff single by John Jay, so double play into things quickly. One out, Forsythe at first, and it brings in the veteran Asdrubal Cabrera, switch hitter.
How many times have we seen it already? Recognizing that this Rays lineup, especially the left-handed hitters against a power righty, come out swinging at that fastball. He's gone with a number of first pitch breaking balls already here this afternoon.
Well, he had a front row seat of all he did to last night's game one. Well, Luis Severino, the 21-year-old rookie, was fantastic. He won his third straight game, and the Rays were after almost every pitch it seemed like that he threw last night. Eovaldi at an up-close and personal scouting report.
Especially early on. Severino came out trying to establish that very good fastball that he has. The Rays were able to get him into a little bit of trouble early in the game. Worked some walks, some base hits, had some base runners. But Severino was able to pitch out of those innings, all of a sudden make the adjustment. Then you started to see the backdoor slider for strike one. You saw the changeup come into play. And at that point, he really took the game over.
All in 2 strikes to Cabrera with Forsythe at second base. He doubled. You can see what the Rays did or did not do last night in these situations. Could not cash in.
Well, on the season, that has been the Achilles heel offensively. They've had opportunities, but 14 out of 15 teams in the American League in that stat of runners in scoring position batting average. And if you're not hitting there, you're not scoring runs.
First year for Kevin Cash. Was the bullpen coach for a couple of years in Cleveland, former big league catcher. A former Yankee for a brief period of time. Close pitch, but a full count.
You're trying to get the chase here. 96, late movement to get Cabrera to go off the plate. He does not.
And a walk. So the double and now the walk to Cabrera. First walk today for Eovaldi. And I'll bring in James Loney. Now Loney has made a name for himself here in the Bronx at New Yankee Stadium. He is nearly a .410 hitter. He has the highest batting average of any visiting player in this ballpark's relatively young history.
Well, like playing on the big stage and the big venues, and the one thing that makes James Loney such a dangerous hitter is the willingness to use the whole field. I mean, he hits the ball where it's pitched, up the middle approach.
No shift for Loney as a result. You can see how he has done against the Yankees overall, both home and away. Among all active hitters, he's at the top.
Haven't figured out the formula. Not yet.
Every team's got that guy.
They do. They really do. And every pitcher has that guy.
Forsythe at second, Cabrera at first. Last night we saw Jake Odorizzi start game 1 for Tampa Bay. And McCann, the catcher for the Yankees, has just flat out owned him, and that continued last night.
For some reason, some guys just see the ball better. You make more mistakes to them. I mean, it was amazing last night because he was the guy that walked before the home run by Alex Rodriguez, and then they pitched to him, full count fastball. He hits a home run his second time up, walks again his third time up in front of another home run.
Here comes the 1-1. Jams him inside. He takes that off the foot. Now, Brian, we've talked about the Rays becoming more aggressive offensively. And when you think about the teams in baseball that are really numbers driven, really analytic driven, the Rays, certainly Oakland as well. Kevin Cash made a pretty clear point today that just because maybe you don't swing early doesn't mean you're just up there to take pitches. It's about when you're aggressive and on what pitches you're aggressive.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case, especially now. The way you see a lot of teams, the Rays being one of them, the way that they use their starting pitchers, the way that now with maybe 2/5, 3/5 of your rotation, when you get to that third time through the lineup, all of a sudden managers looking to pull you, even though the pitch count may be in order. So what's the point in trying to drive a pitch count up when the guy's not going to be there anyway? Go out there and look for pitches, mistakes out over the plate early, and go right after.
He gets rung up. You see Loney maybe not happy with that call. Second punch out, 96 miles an hour. from Eovaldi.
It was the late movement. And James Loney, when the ball comes out of the hand, says this is off the plate. And look at it come back and catch the inside corner. That's where the beef lies. That's just a good front door two-seamer by Nathan Eovaldi.
Two outs, 2 on. That brings in Kevin Kiermaier. And in Kiermaier's career, he has gone from somebody who first made his big league debut strictly as a defensive replacement to someone who was a part-time player to a man now this year you could be right now looking at the American League Gold Glove winner in center field.
Well, his defense has been otherworldly, truly. I mean, the jumps that he gets on balls, the amount of ground that he covers, his athleticism.
High chopper. Brendan Ryan can't get there. Forsythe steams into third base, and he comes around to score. And Kiermaier, for all the talk about his defense, makes it 1-0 Tampa Bay with 2 outs here in the second.
Well, Nathan Eovaldi built to get ground balls, and he got one there, but Kevin Kiermaier finds a hole. This ball leaks back to the middle. It's just a chopper, but perfectly placed. See Brendan Ryan going after it as hard as he can, but once that skips into right field, no question that everybody running with 2 outs, the Rays would plate their first run.
Makes for the Rays' first hit with a runner in scoring position early in this 3-game series. 0 for 7 last night, as we were talking about earlier. Brings in Maile, the catcher. Maile made his big league debut not long ago, start of the month in Baltimore. You can see from Kentucky, played his college ball there, had a lot of family in Baltimore, has some family here today as well. And he'll fool up a little bit there. 3/4 swing, 0-2.
Well, we talked to Kevin Cash about Luke Maile, and he talked about a catcher who is very good receiver behind the plate, good at working with the pitching staff, calling pitches, offensively, still working on that part of his game.
And you can tell that a large part of the motivation to have Maile in the lineup today because of how many times he caught Matt Moore in the minor leagues. During Moore's most recent stint down with AAA Durham, 4 or 5 times, so that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and that is very important. I mean, you want to keep Matt Moore comfortable throwing to a guy that he's had success with.
Off the plate, 2-2. Time missing at 98. Now, one thing when you watch Eovaldi and you look at his game by games, he is not pitch deep routinely. You can see the pitch count. He had a quick 1-2-3 top of the first. It's been a little bit more of a labor here in the second. He's given up 2 hits and a walk. And strike 3 called. He gets him. Eovaldi able to work out with having Cabrera and Kiermaier left stranded, but a run in as the Rays take an early lead. That leads Mississippi State against Southern Miss, and tomorrow Purdue squares off against Marshall. Your home for the best college football games and biggest matchups are Fox and Fox Sports 1. Carlos Beltran begins the Yankees second. They put the shift on, and quickly Moore is ahead. And if you're Matt Moore, Brian, you could not have asked for a better first inning than what he spun. 9 pitches, 3 outs.
No, very sharp with his stuff early. He gets an early run, an early lead to work with, and the fastball and the curveball, except for that one, have been very good. You try to bury a curveball, and sometimes you take it a little bit too far. Missed the cutoff man.
Spikes it to make it 1-2. Loney, the only man on the right side of the infield, much closer to first base than to second. Beltran looking to build on what was a fantastic month of August. He had over 350 with some serious pop as well. And he goes away from the shift. Nobody home to get that one. And it's a leadoff single. Well, for more on today's Rays starter, Matt Moore, we check in with Ken.
Well, guys, as the Matt Harvey debate rages throughout the industry, Matt Moore is living proof that not all pitchers coming off Tommy John surgery are created equal. Moore had his surgery April 22nd, 2014, just a few weeks before Jose Fernandez had his. And if you remember, Fernandez came back, looked great. First 7 starts, 2.30 ERA before he had to go back on the DL with a right bicep strain. Moore, as we've talked about, had a lot of problems, no command. And Brian, you can talk about this as a former pitcher. It's just not always easy, and it's not always the same.
Well, I wouldn't know anything about it because I tried to come back from Tommy John surgery twice and was unsuccessful both times. So, I mean, the thing is, it's a long process. It is a long process. It's a lot of work behind the scenes to build up the stamina to even get into a game. But the timing for everybody is different. There's no question about that.
A flare, foul ground. And this finds the seats. Now, Ken brings up a great point, Brian, because when you think about Tommy John, you really only think about the successful cases.
Right. Right. And there are a lot of guys that either never make it back to the level that they pitched at previously or never make it back at all.
1 ball and 1 strike to Headley. Beltran aboard at first. Pops him up out of play, 1-2. You think about last year, though, in the major leagues, 31 big leaguers had Tommy John surgery. That's more than one entire team, one entire roster. Now, that's how many we were talking about from the season ago. And you had some serious aces. Moore was a part of that. You heard Ken talk about Jose Fernandez, Matt Harvey. It's easy to forget about Jared Parker of the A's. He had his second and then had a setback this year, pretty serious one. Into left field. Grady Sizemore is able to make the running catch. Out number 1.
Well, think about this. Just think about the velocities nowadays. Guys are throwing harder than ever. And when you think about the stress and the torque that you put on an elbow, you can build up the muscles around that elbow, but it's held together by a ligament. You can't strengthen a ligament. It is what it is. And if the velocities continue to climb, that's just a problem that's not going to go away. You can be preventative up to a point, but at some point that ligament takes over and it can be exposed.
One out, 1 on for Greg Bird, Yankees first baseman. And there's no doubt the 2 main storylines in New York these days. It is, when will the Yankees see Mark Teixeira again? And when will the Yankees see CC Sabathia again? Well, we have gotten the answer to one of those. Sabathia, a simulated game yesterday, and he will, if all things go according to plan, rejoin what will be a 6-man rotation for Joe Girardi on Wednesday, coming back from a knee injury. But it is because Teixeira has now officially been put on the disabled list, severely fouling a ball off of his shin. That is why we see Greg Bird getting some extended playing time. One and 2 on Bird.
Well, it's nice to see CC Sabathia, on the verge of making that return on Wednesday if everything goes according to plan. But this is why you need depth. The Mark Teixeira, the severe bone bruise, took a while to figure out exactly what the issue was and just how long he may be out.
Tailing, Kiermaier gets there easily. Out number 2. I'll take you back to August 17th. This is exactly what happened to Teixeira. And Brian, it goes to the old adage, you can never wear enough armor because he has the shin guard and it finds the space above the shin guard.
It did, and I'm going to tell you something. That, go down. Your shin there's no meat there. It is skin and it is bone, and you create enough bat speed, and as hard as Mark Teixeira can hit a baseball, and you hit it right off that shin bone, it's no wonder in watching that and hearing the sound why that may be a problem.
And steps John Ryan Murphy, the catcher. He comes in and gets a piece of him. First pitch, he gets plunked. Beltran into second base.
This is going to be a breaking ball pulled in. Foot up, foot down. Right off that toe. Dirt toe. Well, that pushes a runner into scoring position here for the Yankees with 2 outs and gives them their first shot.
And it brings in what has been truly one of the best turnaround stories on the season for the Yankees, Didi Gregorius. Not easy shoes to fill at shortstop. No explanation needed there. And for Gregorius, really a very tough first half or so of the season. His defense has really picked up, but what's easier to spot is how much his offense has picked up.
He has been absolutely scorching hot for the Yankees recently and over the long haul, even the last couple of months since the All-Star break. His game has really picked up. It's amazing the amount of progress and turnaround you've seen from Didi Gregorius during the course of a season. Not easy to do.
Gregorius falls behind 0-2. Well, he's hitting .345 over his last 40 games, and he's been a major run producer. He's driven in 25 in that span. This Yankees offense second in the major leagues in runs scored, trailing only the team that they're trying to catch, the Toronto Blue Jays.
And a big reason why is because it's not just a couple of guys in their lineup that's chipping in. I mean, they're getting production 1 through 9. And when you're able to do that, well, you're going to put up some big numbers.
And that did not take long for more. 3 pitches gets Gregorius, and the Yankees strand 2. RBI base hit from Kiermaier in the second. And here's John Jaso with the shift on. This time it'll lead him up. Easy play there for Brendan Ryan, out number 1. Now bring in Napa. Major League Baseball on Fox Sports 1 is brought to you by Chevrolet, the official vehicle of Major League Baseball. Now Brian Eovaldi is beginning his second time through the order. What did you see the first time through?
Well, you know what I saw really stood out is a lot of off speed for first pitch early in the count. You know, this is a guy with a big fastball. The Rays, you just saw right there, first pitch fastball to John Jaso in this at bat, and he goes after it aggressively, grounds out to second base. But it was a lot of first pitch off speed pitches by Eovaldi, trying to keep this Rays lineup off balance.
And that first pitch, ball to Nava, the first time he has missed with his first pitch. It was 10 for 10 in first pitch strikes. That's a stat or a topic of conversation, Brian, that first pitch strikes, you see some guys really get burned by throwing too many first pitch strikes. And it seems like some teams like Tampa Bay may be more concerned with what you do in your first 3 pitches. Can you get ahead as opposed to are you always routinely in there with a first pitch strike?
It really depends on what kind of pitcher you are. You know, the guys that have really good command can throw a lot of first pitch strikes by design because they're quality strikes. There's a difference between just a strike and a quality strike that's going to find the edges. And those first pitch strikes out over the heart of the plate, those are the ones that guys ambush and jump on. And the Rays, you're right, their idea is get to 1 and 2. The 1 and 1 is the break count, and 1 and 2, the difference between 1 and 2 and 2 and 1 when you look at the numbers is night and day. So that is the big count for the Rays organization.
Nava ahead, 3-1. And he draws the 1-out walk. Second walk from Eovaldi. Nava reaches for the first time. Well, the name that really comes to mind is Phil Hughes of the Twins.
Ooh.
He is first pitch strike legitimately 3/4 of the time, and even his manager Paul Molitor has said that at times he can be just a little too predictable.
Yeah, and there are times that you need to be well, wild outside, wild by design. You know, like I said, you're trying to hit those corners and get ahead, no doubt, but expanding the zone can be just as effective, especially with a guy who has that built-in reputation.
Longoria bounced to an inning-ending double play back in the first. And he comes in, he gets hit. He was hit earlier in this year on the wrist, which stunted his production a little bit. And you can see Longoria really feeling that one.
That ball was tracking in, and it got that right wrist, and you could see the ball, not a glancing blow. It's going to come straight down. Got that elbow, right elbow.
And with more on Longoria, let's check in with Ken.
Well, it's interesting, guys, and Brian, you can speak to this. Evan Longoria has missed only 2 games the last 3 seasons, but some with the Rays believe that he actually might be too tough at times for his own good, and that wrist has been a question since he got hit on June 14th. Now, Evan told me yesterday that he has felt good for a month, but his stats don't really reflect that. OPS has gone down every month from April to August, although in September, so far, much better.
Well, and I think that's what, you know, his last 5 games, he's hit 4 home runs. He's looked more demonstrative in his swings, more conviction in his swings.
More the Longoria of old, in other words.
Well, there were times where, you know, he was getting his pitch out over the plate, a pitch that you normally see him really tee off on, and just a hair late. Just a little bit of loop in the swing, and instead of driving those pitches, was fouling those pitches off. And so, you know, you're going to get a mistake, maybe 2 in the course of an at-bat, and when you're fouling him off and not putting him into play with authority, then the numbers will suffer.
2-1 on Sizemore as Eovaldi got Jaso to ground out very routinely to Brendan Ryan to begin the inning on the first pitch, but then Nava the walk, Longoria hit by the pitch. And now Grady Sizemore making only his 2nd ever start in the cleanup spot. Comes in here with 1 out and 2 on. Eovaldi falls behind once again. His 2nd 3-ball count here in this inning.
Now, you mentioned it earlier. You know, John Jaso hitting leadoff today, cleanup spot yesterday. Sizemore cleanup today, leadoff in last night's game, and ahead in the count here, 3-1.
And the bases are loaded. Fastball missing, so 3 base runners without putting the ball in play in this inning. And here comes Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach.
Now he's going to come out there and try to get his big right-handed starter back into the zone. Nathan Eovaldi, tremendous stuff, but when guys are pure stuff pitchers, from time to time they're going to have those ball games where the command goes awry, and that's what we're seeing here. And where that further hampers you is when you're not commanding your pitches. The borderline pitches you are not going to get, so you really got to pitch out over the plate.
Joe Girardi looking on, now in his 8th season at the helm of the Yankees. Rays got a run into second with 2 outs on the chopper into right field by Kevin Kiermaier. And now the hottest hitter for the Rays, Logan Forsythe, steps in with 1 out and the bases packed. Nava reached on ball 4. He's made it all the way to third base. Longoria was hit in the back elbow, and you just saw ball 4 to Sizemore. And missing with the first pitch to Forsythe. Now, to tell you how quickly command can vanish, and it happens to every pitcher at some point over the course of the season, multiple times in fact. 10 for 10 first pitch strikes for Eovaldi. After the first out of this inning, it has been ball 1, and then 2 more times after that. 4 straight that he's missed with.
Not exactly the breakout that you would like to see.
Hardly more strikes and balls. Has it 1-1 to Forsythe. Gets some swinging.
Now that was a split finger thrown with conviction. You could see good finish out in front, and that's what's been lacking here with Eovaldi early in this ball game.
Got him to swing right over the top. You can see this road trip for Forsythe, Brian. It has been absolutely off the charts.
Well, the road trip started in Baltimore. 3-game series. He had 3 hits in each game. A hit last night, a hit already this afternoon. He's just able to stay quiet at the plate for so long and trust the quick hands.
Lays off that pitch. Now Forsythe hardly made an out in Baltimore.
No, 9 out of 10. And a couple of walks on top of it. I mean, this is a guy that just seeing the ball so well right there. That fastball, 98 miles an hour just off the plate, didn't flinch.
Turns him in, full count.
Another off speed, another split. Was not out in front with it. Let that ball sail. How that didn't hit Logan Forsythe, not really sure. Almost just curled right around it.
Well, Forsythe has reached in 15 of his last 20 plate appearances and almost reached here by getting scraped. No place to put him. And he's rung up, caught looking, got the fastball in there. And the most timely punch out for Eovaldi so far today as we take a look at the pitch by pitch of that at bat.
Well, a huge at bat. Logan Forsythe, red hot, bases loaded, just 1 out here in the inning, and you're going to miss away. Ball 1. All of a sudden, a breaking ball into the zone. You get even. Now you jump out ahead. Foul ball, still 1-2. Just off 2-2. How do you not hit him full count and then want to go away? And the fastball ends up on the inside corner to pick up the strikeout looking.
Eovaldi not quite out of the woods yet, though. He's got the bases full, still 2 outs for Cabrera. On the first pitch, into right field. Nava comes in to score. Longoria, as it's bobbled in right, 2 runs come home. And we talked about the aggressive hitting for the Rays since the start of August. And Cabrera follows suit. It's 3-0 Tampa Bay.
Well, and is Drupal Cabrera not one of those guys that needs to be talked into swinging the bat early? He gets a breaking ball, and it was a mistake. Another pitch that stays out over the plate, out into right field, and right there Carlos Beltran looking to make a throw, bobbles it. The Rays have extended that lead now to 3.
Here comes Loney. Sizemore went first to third. He's on base still. The pitch count approaching 60 for Eovaldi. Chopper and an easy play for Bird. Well, Eovaldi needed to get out of the third. Unfortunately for his sake, it was a pitch too late. It's now 3-0 Tampa Bay. First pitch strike to Ryan.
Well, something that you're going to see all afternoon long. The Rays aggressive with the shift. They've got the picket fence on the left side of the infield for Brendan Ryan. Seen the Yankees beat it once already.
Right there to the shift, and what a stab by Longoria. Long throw, and it is in time. Let's check in right now back in our Los Angeles studios with Kevin Burkhardt. KB. That's one, thank you, KB, that the folks here in New York will be keeping a close eye on. Last night, Brian, this is amazing. Last night was the first time that the Yankees won and the Blue Jays lost in over 2 weeks. I mean, the frustration level for that man has to be through the roof. You're playing good baseball, but the Blue Jays have just been absolutely on fire.
Now the Blue Jays go out and make the two big deadline deals. You know, to bring in Troy Tulowitzki. A couple days later, you're going to bring in David Price, Ben Revere. You're going to bring him in to play the outfield, maybe hit leadoff, find somewhere in that order to hit him, and it's just like newfound life for that team, and they have just gone crazy since then.
You're absolutely right about the two deals at the deadline, and the funny thing is that that's probably not the biggest deal that they made, the offseason deal with the A's, to bring in the guy who very well at this rate will win the MVP of the American League, and Josh Donaldson. Let's check in with Ken.
Guys, here's the question. Does Toronto have enough starting pitching to get through the postseason? Certainly David Price helps that. If Marcus Stroman comes back, all the better. But we're talking about Dickey and Burley and Hutchinson and Estrada. There are some questions there.
There's a soft pop-up. Forsythe. Ken, you bring up Marcus Stroman. This is a young man who we saw last year at the end of the season. And you talk with anybody with the Blue Jays, and they'll tell you that he has this infectious personality that does even more than just what he can do up on the mound. What is his timetable? We know that his rehab has begun.
Well, they're wondering if he's going to be ready after his next rehab start. And it's a question. He's coming back from this knee injury a lot faster than anyone anticipated. It's the kind of thing, guys, you can't count on. But, man, if he comes back, it's an entirely different equation.
Well, there's absolutely no doubt if they get a healthy Marcus Stroman back with his kind of stuff and the way that he can command the ball around the zone and be a stuff guy, because you think of everybody else, R.A. Dickey, the knuckleballer, Mark Burley. You talk about getting by on guts and guile.
A little flare right there to Forsythe. Boy, the shift has worked out pretty well so far early on defensively for the Rays. Ryan Anderson, Ken Rosenthal, and our entire Fox Sports crew, as the Rays have the early 3-0 lead. Boy, and just talking about that game coming up at the second part of this doubleheader, Brian, this is not the year, as you can say for the last couple of years, to be almost any other team in the Central other than St. Louis. That division, you want to be someplace else, don't you?
Oh, I mean, St. Louis, they just run away from you. They run away from you. I mean, you think about some of the other teams, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Chicago Cubs are emerging as a real threat in that division, but absolutely the St. Louis Cardinals are the benchmark.
We talked so much about the injuries this year for the Rays, and they've had more than anybody. Well, the injury bug has not gone easy on the Cardinals. They have somehow kept on going along as Kiermaier tries to climb the ladder, comes up empty. And Eovaldi picks up his 5th punch out.
Well, the St. Louis Cardinals, one of those true baseball organizations, and there's that elevated fastball. That's what you can do when you're pitching ahead, expand the zone and get Kiermaier with the chase.
Quick out number 1. It brings in Maile. Good news for Yankees fans. That man, CC Sabathia, is scheduled to pitch on a Wednesday. Interesting hearing Joe Girardi say what many thought he might say, and that is that the Yankees will be moving to a 6-man rotation. For how long, we'll find out, but it will freshen everybody up for the time being. Sabathia will be pitching with a pretty hefty knee brace, it sounds like. It's the chase there for Maile. A couple of punch outs to begin the top of the 4th.
And that'll be something to really keep an eye on. I mean, it's, you go out there to pitch and you're used to feeling a certain way, and all of a sudden you go with a bulky knee brace, a completely different feel, and going out there trying to compete at this level. You just wonder, how that's going to go. Is that something that you can put out of your mind? Does it feel free and easy?
He will be the only left-handed starter for the Yankees. Right now they're running out 5 right-handed starters, which actually works out pretty well for an upcoming series against Toronto. Very right-handed heavy lineup for the Blue Jays. 0-2 on Jaso. The shift on for Jaso. That series coming up for the Yankees against the Blue Jays will essentially be their version of the World Series early on. It will feel that big.
Right. But in the meantime, you had better focus day to day, the game that day, and not look down the road. They'll be here soon enough. The key for the Yankees is to keep their focus on the task at hand. You talked about how frustrating it was over the last couple of weeks to just not be able to gain ground on the Toronto Blue Jays. Well, realize that you've got 7 games with them. You'll have enough to say about where you are in the standings, but you got to take care of business today.
Jaso the opposite way, avoids the shift, and after a couple of strikeouts, Jaso is aboard with a 2-out single. He reaches for the second time.
Tell you what, the split finger for Nathan Eovaldi has been so inconsistent this afternoon. He comes with another one here, but that ball stays up, and it allows John Jaso to just soft serve it out into left field. He's got plenty of room to work with. There's the grip. Look at where it ends up. Easily recognized by John Jaso, and he can just flip it the other way and take his 2-out single.
Well, Eovaldi had a chance for his first 1, 2, 3 innings since the first, but we'll have to wait till later. Here is Nava. 2 outs, a man aboard. And off the glove there of Murphy, and Jaso can easily waltz it to second.
Well, command issues. That's what has plagued Eovaldi, whether it's the off speed or the fastball. A lot of life on that pitch. Supposed to be away, up and in, and right off the thumb of John Ryan Murphy's glove.
And pass ball there. And a free base for Jaso. Nava walked and scored in the third. And Eovaldi will look back to that third inning and will probably be saying that there were plenty of self-inflicted wounds in that frame.
You know, it's tough when you go out there, you give up 1 single and end up giving up 2 runs and leave 2 on. I mean, you got a couple of walks, a hit batter.
And then Cabrera, the 2-run base hit to right.
Coming after the strikeout, the full count strikeout of Logan Forsythe. You make that strikeout, you think, hey, listen, we're going to get out of this.
Forsythe, the hottest hitter right now for the Rays, as the count goes to 2-1 on Nava. And if you are Tampa Bay in this ballpark against the second highest scoring team of the game, you have to pile on, as the Rays have Jaso in scoring position.
The Rays as a team will get more aggressive with the lead. You get the right guys on base, you start to put them in motion, but you're never content with the lead in this building. A lot of power in that Yankee lineup.
Nava deep. Brendan Ryan covered some nice ground there. Jaso left stranded. And we go to the bottom of the 4th. Nothing. A-Rod, a strikeout victim on a Matt Moore fastball to end the first inning. As they shift for A-Rod. Now, there's no doubt that the biggest question around the Yankees entering this year is what would be the production level of Alex Rodriguez, and it finally started to taper in what was a rough month of August. Now behind 1-2. But a home run last night makes for now 27 on the season for A-Rod. Two balls and 2 strikes. And then you can see since August the 1st, well beneath 200. But through July, 282 and almost 25 bombs. Who saw that coming?
Right out of the gate, too, after having a season off. I don't think anybody saw that coming, but adjustments have been made, as you see by the numbers. And it's, a lot of it is the off-speed stuff that you try to go short with Alex Rodriguez and get him reaching and out in front. And you've seen a lot of fastballs trying to tie him up and in, get it over the swing. See, that's the pitch that he has a chance on. The pitch that's down 94, he can get down to it. That pitch, that same pitch, you bring that up about a foot, it'll be real tough for him to catch up.
Now, meanwhile, this is the first full count from Matt Moore as he works with Maile, the rookie catcher he worked with a number of times in his most recent stint in the minors. This is his first start back. And really, Brian, based on the numbers in Moore's starts, 6 starts once he came back up to the big leagues following Tommy John, an ERA now pushing 9. Kevin Cash has to be thrilled with what he's seen from Matt Moore over the first 3 frames.
There is no doubt about it. This is a completely different pitcher. Before with Matt Moore, you could set up fastball away. You don't know where it would end up. His command was off. He worked on that. He tightened up the delivery, pared down the arsenal, and he's been very good here this afternoon.
Pitch number 8, and he ties up A-Rod. He gets him. Carlos Beltran coming up, and with more on Beltran, we'll check in with Ken.
Well, guys, I asked Beltran yesterday how long he wants to continue playing, and he said that sometimes he mentions to his wife that he would like to go 20 years. This is his 18th season. Next year, last year of his Yankees contract. Recently, he was talking with Red Sox hitting coach Chili Davis, fellow switch hitter, and Chili told him, play until they kick you out. Now, Beltran said, I don't know if I want that. I have pride. I want to go out on my own terms. And the next question becomes, after he retires, what about the Hall of Fame? Beltran said, if it happens, beautiful thing. But if it doesn't happen, I've had a great career. Nothing will take away from my accomplishments.
Now you think about the production, thank you, Ken, that Beltran has had over a nearly 2-decade career with so many different teams. Kiermaier full speed ahead, covers into the gap, and he makes the catch. 2 outs. Now, the point that Ken brings up about the Hall of Fame, that's a very valid conversation.
Well, if he continues to be as productive as he's been since the 1st of May for a few more years, well, I think that becomes an easier call on Carlos Beltran. But I agree with Chili Davis. I mean, you play this game as long, there's a lot of time you could be retired. There's a very short window for most guys, and even 20 years in the grand scheme of things. In baseball years, that's forever. But 20 years is not that long of a time frame overall.
So forget pride? If they're paying you to do this?
Well, yeah, but I mean, you got to believe that they're going to be paying you to do this because you're still productive.
Sure. Headley dumps it into center field with 2 outs.
And Carlos Beltran, he's a smart player. He knows how to make adjustments. We've seen him do that this season. But yeah, I say play as long as you can.
Beltran a little bit of time this year on the disabled list, but boy, Brian's point is a good one. Since May, hitting over 300 with some good pop too. 2 outs, Headley at first for Bird. Now, Joe Girardi has been very pleased with how Greg Bird has filled in for Teixeira since Teixeira has been banged up and finally going on the disabled list.
Really, you think about Greg Bird, you think about Luis Severino showing maturity beyond their years, not only in Major League Baseball, but in this market. I mean, playing in New York, not the easiest place sometimes to break in. But these guys, they just go out and play ball. They've been productive and unflappable so far.
2 balls and a strike. Now Teixeira was putting together, well, it was an all-star year, his first since 2009. Last year Teixeira slowed so much by the wrist injury, in fact a couple of seasons in a row plagued by injury. Finally got things going, and then fouling the pitch off the shin about the middle of August. And we heard from Girardi He says with complete conviction he believes that Teixeira will be back again this year, even though he says that he doesn't necessarily have anything concrete to back that up. It's just his managerial feeling. He's very adamant about that. Pops him up. Finding the sunshine. Here is Cabrera. Making Longoria in the shift. And it will be Longoria to lead things off when we go to the top of the 5th inning. Stadium. Game 2 of this 3-game weekend series. The Rays losing last night, but Tampa Bay has a 3-0 lead as we start the top of the 5th. Longoria beginning things, and Eovaldi's pitch count now just over 75. At a lengthy third, a long 4th in some respects too. Really more the 2nd and 3rd though. Was able to work around a 1-out single by Jaso. 2-out single by Jaso in the 4th. Longoria has seen the Yankees plenty over the course of his career, all with Tampa Bay. You can see since 2008, tied for the most home runs against the Yankees, the most RBIs, and not a huge surprise. Jose Bautista, the man that he's tied with in terms of the home runs.
Evan Longoria has always had that ability to step up in the moment. And so often when you're playing the New York Yankees, the blood gets pumping. You're playing here at Yankee Stadium, or regardless, it's always a big series, and he certainly has performed.
Longoria, a leadoff walk to start the top of the 5th. So Eovaldi now 4 walks. He's also hit a batter. A leadoff man reaches for Sizemore.
Well, these are the types of games which really limit Eovaldi's ability to get deep. You know, a lot of deep counts, the walks, base runners. He's been pitching out of the stretch all afternoon.
A lot of traffic on the base paths. And this leads to a greater point for Joe Girardi, and that is the Yankees bullpen and what it looks like right now and how much he has had to use. One of the most feared duos out of any bullpen, and that is Betances and Miller. Miller the save last night. Betances had the night off.
And what those two allow you to do is to shorten the game and shorten it significantly. You know, you can count on those guys for shut down 8th and 9th inning. And so all of a sudden now, with a couple other guys sprinkled in out there, and there is Andrew Miller, and he came in to pick up that save, got 2 outs last night, and did it rather quickly, just a few pitches.
Longoria at first base. Yeah, the count goes to 1-1. Well, Sizemore began the year with the Phillies, now a member of the Rays, and this was a player, Brian, that in the early days of his career, early 2000s, 3-time All-Star with the Indians, Gold Glove winner, Silver Slugger, and then was riddled by injuries. And there was a day, though, where he was truly one of the game's elites.
Well-rounded player, plus defender, good speed. Talk about Kiermaier's jumps and the ground that he could cover. Grady Sizemore, the same thing, could swing the stick. But you're right, injuries have robbed him of time and production, but been pretty good since coming back with the Rays.
Looks at a strike to make it 2-2. Last year, some time with the Red Sox for the Phillies too.
Another example of a guy that still feels like there's something left to give.
Yeah,
and can still be productive. He's worked his way right into the cleanup spot here this afternoon.
And for more on that, we'll check in with Ken.
Talking to Grady Sizemore yesterday, there might not be a more grateful player in the ballpark. He is happy just to be playing again. Missed 12 and 13 with injuries, came back last year, as you said, Aaron. And This is a guy who's been on winning teams only twice in his career, 2005, 2007 with the Indians. He's happy to be with his teammates, be with the camaraderie again, and happy to be part of what is still a race for the Tampa Bay Rays.
And that 96-win team for the Indians back in 2007. And you can see there's definitely been some perspective for Grady Sizemore. Missing 2 years of big league time will do that for you.
Oh boy, the game is taken away from you like that, and you get the opportunity to come back at this level. There's no doubt about what Kenny said about Grady Sizemore and his mindset and getting to play meaningful games in September.
Sizemore, a lift to right field. Beltran is there for the squeeze, and out number one. That brings in Logan Forsythe.
It goes back to the message to Carlos Beltran. Play as long as you can.
I feel like you're going to be talking with Carlos tomorrow about this.
May do that. May stop down there today.
That is the first fly ball out today for the Rays. 6 on the ground, 6 punch outs. First pitch strike to Forsythe. Eovaldi trying to work around a leadoff walk to Longoria. Brian, what were the expectations or the hopes for Logan Forsythe entering this season?
Well, really, coming into spring training, the idea was, the shortstop position was up for grabs. Didn't know how that was going to pan out. As Asdrubal Cabrera, he really took hold of that position early in spring training, and then it became the thought that Logan Forsythe and Nick Franklin would platoon out at second base. But late in spring training, Nick Franklin comes down with an oblique injury. It's too late to really do anything, so they kind of forced Logan Forsythe out into an everyday type of role. And here, been the most consistent hitter. I know he goes down swinging there, but he has been a godsend for this team, not only at the plate, but even out in the field.
That's out number 2.
That's the type of pitch, too, we've seen from Eovaldi. We've seen some plus off-speed pitches, but inconsistent overall on the day.
And here is Cabrera. Cabrera has reached base twice. 2-run single to right field his last time up. And this has been a rare start for Eovaldi, at least so far, where the run support has not been there. A strike to make it 2-1. Drew Hutchison and also Mark Burley, the only 2 pitchers in the game with greater run support than Eovaldi. No surprise they both play for the Blue Jays, a team leading baseball in runs. All the talk about Matt Moore and Tommy John surgery. Well, Eovaldi had Tommy John surgery after his junior year in high school. Eovaldi, now 25 years old, from Houston, still lives there in the offseason. And even at 96 pitches, still blowing gas, that time at 97.
It has not lost a thing. Impressive. You think about a high school pitcher, especially junior year, coming down with that surgery. How much longer could you possibly last? Well, in his mid-20s, he's got the best fastball of a starting pitcher in the game.
John Ryan Murphy off with the mask. And out number 3. Longoria stranded at first base, and that takes us to the bottom of the 5th. Rays have the lead.
With the mustache, though.
Oh, he
need the mustache.
There's no doubt. It's a disappointment that it's gone. Here is John Ryan Murphy, the catcher, leading things off. Now, so far, the Yankees have not been able to get much going against Moore. Only 2 hits. And they've had a runner in scoring position only once. That was Beltran in the 2nd.
Well, the one thing that Matt Moore has done very well this afternoon is establish command of the fastball. That is what plagued him the first stint with the Rays this year. But moving the fastball around the zone, the curveball's been on point. And mainly it's been those 2 pitches leading the way.
And a rare 3-ball count here, 3-1 to Murphy. And a full count. Gregorius on deck, swinging a hot bat, 0 for 1 today with a strikeout. Here comes Moore's 3-2. And he walks him, a leadoff walk. First walk today given out by the lefty. All right, now we'll check in with KB back inside of our Los Angeles studios. All right, Kevin, thank you. And Brian, you mentioned his name a few minutes ago when we were talking about that, about the Blue Jays. That's one guy that kind of gets lost in the trade shuffle with the Blue Jays.
And it really shouldn't. Well, he's not a big power guy. You know, he led the National League in hits last year, had a ton this year.
Gregorius the opposite way, into the gap, Sizemore off the wall. All the way to third, Murphy steams home, the throw, and he is in there. Yankees on the board. Gregorius, his hot hitting continues.
Boy, how about the sock that Gregorius shows going the other way with authority? Left center field here at Yankee Stadium, gets out to 399, and he lifts that ball out into the gap. One hops the wall, and then here comes the relay trying to cut down the run, and that ball right off the helmet
on the dome
of Murphy. Was on target.
Can you call that an accurate throw?
Very. Not sure that's
a moving target
that you want. If you're a quarterback, a whole lot better if you're the relay guy.
Well, the backup catcher showing some speed here.
Absolutely, cutting the bases very well and then taking one right off the helmet. No harm, no foul.
And suddenly the Yankees bring the tie-in run to the plate. That's Brendan Ryan. Didi Gregorius right now about as hot as they come. You can see his last 9 games. He has been a run producing machine. And with more on Didi Gregorius, Ken, what do you got?
Well, Yankees bench coach Rob Thompson told me yesterday that he has never seen a young guy improve this much in all phases in this short a period of time. And that's a lot of words. But what we've seen from Didi is exactly that. He's a better base runner than he was earlier, a better defender, and a better hitter. Now, the Yankees always felt he could hit, and the reason they felt that was because he hit in the minor leagues. 277 batting average, 721 OPS. That's covering about 2,200 minor league plate appearances. Over the last 3 months, guys, he's been even better than that.
Yeah, he's been fantastic, and he really made a name for himself in the minor leagues coming up in the Reds organization. And then you talk about being put into one of the most difficult positions for any young player, because as Joe Girardi said, he really kind of sees this as Didi's rookie season, even though on paper it isn't.
Well, there's that understanding now that you're the everyday shortstop for the New York Yankees. You don't have to look over your shoulder, wonder if you're going to play that day. You know you're going to be in the lineup. And boy, April and May, what he's done since then in all facets of the game has been remarkable to watch.
Meanwhile, 2-2 on Ryan. Chopper back a couple of steps. Loney. Out number one. He moves Gregorius to third.
Yeah, productive out there by Brendan Ryan, looking to go the other way, pick up a base hit and drive the run in. But even so, you get the runner to third with less than 2 outs. Brandon Gomes getting ready in a hurry. Just what Kevin Cash said, the first sign of trouble here for Matt Moore. He's going to be managing these games a little differently, have a more of a playoff type of feel, because for the Rays, that's really what they are.
Tampa Bay right now 4.5 games outside of that second wild card held by the Rangers. First pitch to Gardner. Tough month of August for Gardner. Hit just above 200. He led the Yankees in strikeouts that month. But overall this year, good numbers offensively. An all-star this season for the first time. Drafted and developed by the Yankees. And for Gardner, does not need a hit here to bring in a run with Gregorius at third base and 1 out.
No, and the way the Rays are defending him right now, the middle infield, you got Logan Forsythe over in playing traditional second base. They're playing deeper. They're conceding this run. And Brett Gardner, a guy that he's got a short, quick stroke, good idea, put the ball in play. Got an RBI if he wants it.
Well, outside, 2-1. Now, you mentioned managing these games as if they're must wins, and really for the Rays, they have to leapfrog the Angels, the Twins, and then get past the Rangers as well. Ground ball, Cabrera, nifty snag for out number 2, but a run in. Gregorius, who doubled a run home, scores himself now, and the Yankees are within a run.
Well, Brett Gardner using the middle of the field, that's going to guarantee the run. But how about the play by Asdrubal Cabrera, fielding that ball behind his body, the slide, pop up, and how about the throw right on the money to get the speedy Gardner? Boy, heck of a play.
Two outs. Gregorius in from third. There was Chris Young. Now, twice Young has been eaten up by the shifts. Both times he's put a ball in play to Logan Forsythe, the second baseman, who swings over on the third base side of second, as he gets tied up here by Matt Moore.
It's not broke.
He's hit it that way twice.
You know, it's really becoming almost more newsworthy when defenses play a guy straight up than when they actually shift or shape.
You say the comment, they don't shift for this guy.
Well, he must use the whole field. He must be well-rounded.
Is that a new concept? Using the whole field?
I think that it's going to be. I think that is going to be the new thing, is you're going to have to start teaching hitters at lower levels. to use the whole field. I mean, I'm telling you right now, if I was an entrepreneur, I'd open up a hitting school where I would teach kids how to hit to all fields. Because the day, I mean, that's going to become, that is going to become something I think is going to be in high demand when you've got a hitter. You think about guys like Paul Molitor and
right.
That just quick hands, use the whole field, how dangerous they were. Where if you just continue to hit into the shift, I mean, that's what's taken, one of the things that's taken averages way down. I think you combine that with the stuff of the pitchers and everything else, but I think that's something that you will see going forward is that desire for guys that can use the whole field and keep a defense honest.
You've got a great business plan lined up for you one day.
I said if I was an entrepreneur.
Oh, okay.
I'm not. It's a pretty good idea.
You think back to a former Yankee, now in Seattle, Robinson Cano. There was a time where teams would shift Cano. Thinking back to his Yankees days, there was a game at Fenway Park. Middlebrooks was the third baseman for the Yankees, and he was halfway towards second base. Cano dropped a bunt down at Fenway Park, and it turned into a double. And smart hitters will do that.
Yeah, and there are certain hitters where you'll almost welcome them. Because I'm not worried about.
You want David Ortiz to drop down a bunt.
That's it. You think about the Ortiz, Barry Bonds, guys you would shift on. Yes, you want to drop down a bunt.
Yeah.
You can have it all day. Not
Every
worried
time
about that from you. But there are other guys that are shifted upon that are not home run hitters. They're not power hitters. And so if you're not going to be a guy that's going to give me 35, 40 every year, then you better be able to use the whole field. And it's hard for guys to change that midstream because for the longest time, the home run was the game. I mean, the power numbers were off the charts. Then start to get PEDs out of the game. Mm-hmm. It comes back more to how baseball used to be played.
2-out walk. Young, a lengthy plate appearance. 9 pitches. And no shift. Can defend ball 4. Here comes Kevin Cash. 26 pitches here in the 5th. Now the Rays were hoping, no doubt, that Moore could go a full 5, especially with the way that he was rolling through the first 4 innings. But that'll be it for Matt Moore. We'll step aside, a pitching change with 2 outs and a man on.
But it was the walk that did Matt Moore in, the leadoff walk that came around to score on the Gregorius double. And then all of a sudden the walk to end his outing.
Brandon Gomes comes in on relief. And the first righty that the Yankees are seeing today.
On for the 50th time, 48 innings of work, and Brandon Gomes has been on quite a run here for the Rays, throwing the ball as well as he has at any point in the season here in the last month or so.
And he just somewhat recently had a streak of 26 consecutive batters retired come to an end near the end of August. Jason Shreve beginning to loosen up. Two 2-0 to A-Rod. He used the go-ahead run. A-Rod struck out on 2 fastballs for Matt Moore. For Young, that was quite the battle to finish the day for Matt Moore. 9 pitches, he ended up drawing the walk, fouled away. 3 with 2 strikes to keep the inning alive for the Yankees. And it's 2-2 on A-Rod.
I've been a steady diet of breaking balls from Gomes to Alex Rodriguez. That one hanging out over the plate, similar to the pitch that he hit out in last night's ball game. Now the count to 2-2. But boy, you're right about Chris Young. You put together an at-bat like that, extended inning, you get the starter out of the ball game.
That's big.
It really is.
On a couple of different fronts. And if you're Young, with 2 outs and you represent the tying run, you are well aware that Gomes has a pretty good pickoff move.
And so you've got to hang tight. Wouldn't be surprised to see that right now because he will be off and running with this pitch. 2 outs and a full count. So the Rays and Brandon Gomes in particular might try to catch him napping and leaving a little bit too soon. So wouldn't be surprised at all for a throw over right here.
Only holds him tight. And right on cue.
You're just trying to catch a guy mentally lazy. Because you know he's going. It's a one time you know for sure a guy's going.
It was John Ryan Murphy with the walk to lead off this inning, which has given the Yankees their first 2 runs of the day. There he goes. And ball 4 to A-Rod. Back-to-back 2-out walks. The first for Moore. This one from Brandon Gomes. And the Yankees in business with 2 down for Carlos Beltran.
Well, Jim Hickey coming out to the mound to talk to Brandon Gomes about Carlos Beltran. It's been 3 walks in this inning. Uncharacteristic of the Rays pitching so far in this game, and it's gotten him into some trouble.
And Moore just a spectator at this point. 4 2/3. But overall, I think Kevin Cash is pleased with what he saw from Moore.
Yeah, I think that was a step forward for Matt Moore, especially those first 4 innings. He was clean. The delivery was good. The command was good. It went a little south there in the 5th inning, but definitely something to build on.
Young, the tying run is at second. A-Rod at first, the go-ahead. And the first pitch missing to Beltran.
These breaking balls down in the zone by Brandon Gomes, both Alex Rodriguez and that first pitch to Beltran, they're not even flinching on it. They've seen that ball out of the hand and taking it.
One and one. The season did not get off to a good start for Carlos Beltran, but you can see here since May 1st, and he has spent a little bit of time with the disabled list, Beltran has been one of the most productive bats in Joe Girardi's lineup. To center field, Kiermaier plays it easily. And a step back a couple, and the Yankees get 2, but they strand 2, and we're through 5.
And then all of a sudden, as you release it, you start to get that tumbling action, and that's when you get the real deception. You move that ball out, you get it to the fingertips, and then right here, and that ball comes out, it starts to tumble and fade. That's when you get your swings and misses.
And Joe Girardi said that there's no doubt the splitter has been the difference for Eovaldi. His first 13 starts to his last 13. Although, as you can see today, the pitch count one away from triple digits at this point.
Well, and that pitch has been inconsistent. We've seen some really good splits this afternoon from Eovaldi, and we've seen some that have floated, stayed out over the plate, or completely missed. Getting those fingers around that seam, just trying to be a little bit more loose with it so you're free and easy out front, and that's what will give you that tumbling action instead of that ball being jammed tight between those fingers and coming out like a knuckleball.
And he was saying that he just really never had a good clean delivery with a changeup, and that this was his version of it. Started throwing it, the splitter that is, at the very end of last year with Marlins pitching coach Chuck Hernandez. Just could never quite get the feel for a changeup, and he wouldn't be the first guy to say that.
No, and you know the thing that's different.
This is socked into right field, but an easy play for Beltran.
You know, the true changeup, your power fingers as a pitcher are your index and middle finger. So a typical changeup, you try to get those fingers out from behind the back of the baseball. And if you start to go to the OK type of changeup, now you're throwing the ball with your ring finger and your middle finger, and it's a different type of feel. A lot of guys, they're not able to get that feel. So if you're able to go to the split, it's still the power fingers throwing the pitch. They're not behind the baseball. They're on the side of the baseball, but you still feel like you're in good control.
That's it for Eovaldi. Gets one out here in the 6th. Will step aside. A pitching change here in the Bronx.
For a chance to win. Down by a run. Needs Chase and Shreve to come up big for a couple more outs and let their offense get back to work.
It's Kiermaier to swing and miss.
Season numbers on Shreve very good. 1.89 earned run average. His last 12 appearances spanning 11 innings has given up just 1 earned run.
1-2 quickly. Kiermaier made it 1-0 back in the 2nd. He chopped a ground ball into right field. That scored Forsythe from second base. Kiermaier hitting 8th. And earlier this year, a bit of a hand injury to Kiermaier, and it seemed like that maybe almost helped him stay in his swing a little bit more.
Well, I'll tell you what it did is, he hurt his thumb, and the result of that injury started to cut down on the swing just a little bit. Put the ball in play, use your legs, your speed, your asset. And I'll tell you, it really did help out. Using the middle of the field made a big difference.
He's down on strikes. We'll check it with Kevin Burkhardt. KB. Look at that.
Well, thank you.
KB's approval.
I appreciate it.
Well, if you are Tampa, or pardon me, if you are Toronto, that is exactly the line that you're hoping for David Price in September.
It's the idea behind picking David Price up in that trade, and he is not disappointed, that is for sure.
Mailey, the rookie catcher, digs in. 2 outs, nobody on. Now, so much concern this year, this time of year here in New York, about the bullpen for the Yankees, and is it good enough to take them into the postseason and help them make a lengthy postseason run? As Nathan Eovaldi today, just 5 1/3 innings. The Yankees rank in the bottom 3rd in baseball this year in innings per start, less than 6. So today's from Eovaldi is kind of par for the course from what they have seen in the Bronx this year in Joe Girardi. And the good news for Girardi and company is this time of year they've had some relief added to the bullpen with the rosters expanding. Room service hop to Gregorius, and the side sat down in order by Yankees pitching for the first time since the 1st inning. A lot. You can see over 50 appearances.
Well, and having a tremendous season, an ERA of 1.95, and Xavier Cedeno is going to go at this Yankee lineup. Likes the cutter. He'll throw that pitch around 90 miles an hour, and the breaking ball on top of it. Nothing this guy throws stays straight.
He'll face Chase Headley to begin things in the Yankees' 6th inning. He just couldn't ask for a better day. Yankees winning last night, 5-2 the final. They shift for Headley. One and one. And we have a new third baseman, Brian. Richie Schaefer is in at 3rd. We saw Longoria hit on the elbow by a pitch, and maybe that's part of the reason why we see him out of the ballgame.
You just wonder, that was a mid-90s fastball right off the inside of that elbow, the throwing arm. Ken Rosenthal already hit on it, talking about how tough Evan Longoria is. For him to come out of a ball game would concern you as a Rays fan.
It's Headley swinging. Bailey to finish the strikeout. And there is out number one. Let's take a look at that earlier at bat from Longoria. And here is the injury to his elbow.
I mean, that is a mid-90s fastball running up and in and catching him clean on the inside of that elbow. And you just wonder if over the course of the afternoon it didn't start to tighten up a little bit. Not a great place to get hit, especially on the throwing arm.
So Daniel strikes out the first man that he sees. Now looks at Greg Bird. Now, Brian, we were talking about the Yankees bullpen as the top of the sixth came to a close. And the interesting thing about the bullpen, even though Yankees starters routinely this year have not necessarily pitched deep into games, the two in the bullpen that you think about the most with Betances and also Miller, they're actually on pace to pitch fewer innings than they did last year, even though it seems like they are pitching almost every night.
Well, and that's a credit to Joe Girardi and game planning and being creative on how he's going to use these guys. You know, the knee jerk would be get them out there all the time.
3 pitches, and Bird caught looking. Back-to-back strikeouts.
But you need to keep those guys fresh, and he's been able to do that thus far. And it's the best tandem in baseball.
When you think about the fact that Betances, you figure, could close for how many teams in baseball right now, and he's the setup guy to Miller?
29?
Yeah.
In that range?
Murphy takes outside for ball one. Now the Yankees will have to come from behind in this one today. They've scored 2 unanswered runs after the Rays got out to an early 3-0 lead. Blue Jays right now leading the Orioles, and last night was the first time in over 2 weeks that the Yankees won and the Blue Jays lost.
And Joe Girardi said it best when we talked to him earlier today. Said we need to take care of business that's out in front of us right now. The Toronto Blue Jays will be here soon enough, and then we can go to work on them. But he wants his team to be focused on the task at hand.
And you hear so many managers say that. It becomes so routine. But with the clubhouse that the Yankees have, and you look at the veterans in that clubhouse who have been around for so long. Now, there is youth sprinkled in, but you've got a really steady veteran example to follow if you're a young guy.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that tone has been set. You know, Joe talked about the clubhouse, the chemistry, the way that they interact, the way that they welcome the young guys, make them feel comfortable at home, but also they're going to play the game a certain way.
2-out walk to John Ryan Murphy. 2 outs and 1 on. Aerial coverage is provided by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you've got to get DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV. Now let's check in with Ken. What's the latest on Evan Longoria, Ken?
Guys, it's a bruised right forearm, not his elbow. He's going to be day to day.
All right. Well, it's good to know it's the forearm and not the elbow. Brian, it would seem like that would be a little easier to work with.
Yeah, well, you're talking about the muscle versus the bone. You know, you think about the bone bruise of Mark Teixeira and keeping him out. And so you keep that ball, you know, into the forearm, not pleasant, but at the same time you can go right to work on the muscle and try to get the inflammation and stiffness out of there. And, you know, Evan will be out there as quickly as he can. I mean, he's just that type of guy.
In the meantime, Cedeno has walked the go-ahead run to first base. Pardon me, the tying run to first base. The go-ahead Gregorius swinging a hot bat at the plate. It's 1-1. And the approach that Kevin Cash will have to take today is something he's very familiar with, and that is piecing it together with the bullpen after a start of, as it turns out today, 4 2/3 for Matt Moore.
Well, that's where you go to your sheet. You go to your sheet. What are the matchups? Who do I want here? You've got to cover some innings. Nothing new to the Rays coaching staff. There's pitching coach Jim Hickey.
He's got a couple of sheets
Speaking
there.
of matchups.
Geltz warming up in the bullpen. 1-2. It was Gregorius who got the Yankees on the board in the 5th on a double that one hopped off the wall. Looked like it might be able to carry out when it was off the bat. And it was the opposite way.
And that's big out there, too. You're a left-handed hitter, and you're going opposite field, left center here at Yankee Stadium. That is some juice.
Murphy at first base, keeping an eye. It was Murphy who scored from first base after he was walked. He came home on the double by Gregorius. In this inning, he's walked with 2 outs. Gets him swinging, and that'll be it for Didi Gregorius as Cedeno comes out of the bullpen and he strikes out the side.
Same for Nate Eovaldi, same for Didi Gregorius, and as well Justin Wilson, who also comes out of the bullpen. Add in 2 free agent signings, Andrew Miller, Chase Headley, pretty good. Even Stephen Drew, the much maligned Stephen Drew, almost league average offensively at second base. So the offseason looks good, and the decision not to trade prospects such as Severino and Bird at the deadline also seems to be pretty shrewd.
Yeah, all of those seem to come up aces for Brian Cashman.
You can't argue with one of them. I mean, really.
Yeah. Jaso, leadoff hitter, 2 for 3 today. A couple of singles beginning the 7th for the Rays. And even though Severino is only 21 years old, he got the win last night. He's won his last 3 starts. You talk to anybody with the Yankees who has spent time around him and watching him, and they will tell you he has the poise and the presence of a guy who's been around a lot longer than he actually has.
Well, such confidence in his abilities and in his stuff and in what he wants to do. And it shows. His mound presence, very good. The ability last night in working with Brian McCann to make an early adjustment away from the fastball so much, start to sprinkle in the off speed. Then he got that Rays offense off balance and was so good. And a lot of times you don't see that from a young pitcher. Did have some help with Brian McCann, the veteran back there, putting the fingers down, but ultimately you got to agree to him.
He's got to execute.
Yep.
Leadoff walk to Jaso. He reaches for the 3rd time.
That's what the Rays had in mind with John Jaso, a good on-base guy. Good idea, the strike zone.
That brings in Nava. Rob Thompson will adjust accordingly here with the man at first base. So Nava back to switch hitting, now batting right-handed. Boy, Brian Nava brought up some really interesting points yesterday, talking about that short period of time where he abandoned switch hitting. And we hear every once in a while about, even in today's game, some players who things are going so rough from one side that either they or the coaching staff thinks that it's a good idea to abandon switch hitting. Shane Victorino, one that comes to mind. And Nava said that in some of his early at-bats, batting left on left, the action of a two-seam fastball from a lefty down and into him. He said that is something that he hadn't seen since he was a kid, before he started switch hitting, and it jammed him, and that's what helped to lead to a hand injury, which forced him to miss some time.
And I would imagine that when he was a kid, the movement and the velocity was not the same either.
I would think so.
So it's at a completely different level. That's part of the reason why guys like to switch hit anyway. Like to see that pitching arm out away from them, get a better view, of the pitch. Sometimes, you start to, like he described, hit left-handed against a lefty. That feels like that arm's right on top of you. The action on the pitches is different than you've seen. It can be a struggle. And
that was an early conversation he had with the Rays once they picked him up after he was designated for assignment. So whether or not he wanted to continue switch hitting, get back to it as more of a regular thing. High throw, but corralled. Nava is safe.
Now the timing of the play was completely thrown off with the feed of Chase Headley. Too high to Brendan Ryan, and they're not going to be able to get it. This looked to be tailor-made. Nice chop, but it's up. Got to come off the bag, retouch, and then throw flat-footed. No way you're going to get Nava.
And some good hops there by Brendan Ryan. Look at the lead runner. Nava's safe. Brings in Schaefer, his first at bat since taking over for Longoria, as Ken told us was not an elbow but rather a bruised forearm. Now this score right now, 3-2 Tampa Bay, is such a reflection on this season for the Rays. They have had so many close games this year. They are tied with Seattle for the most games decided by 2 runs or fewer in the major leagues. I mean, it has been razor thin for Tampa Bay all season.
Well, and it's really the way that this team has been built. I mean, offensively, for the most part, they've struggled to consistently score runs. So you're having trouble plating runs, and yet you've had an elite pitching staff not giving runs up. So a lot low scoring games, which leads to a lot of close games.
You're right about the pitching. Third lowest ERA in the American League. Their starter's been fantastic. And Warren loosening up. One out, one on. Schaefer's first at bat. Colomé loosening up. Was a starter for a while this year for Tampa Bay. Now in the bullpen.
That's what this has become, a battle of the bullpens. Tightly contested ball game.
Big swing and a miss to make it 2-2.
Now Richie Schaefer does not get cheated. Has the count in his favor at 2-1. Gets a fastball and takes a big rip. You may see Chasen Shreve go right back to that pitch.
And we'll find out the 2-2. And he misses low.
Well, wanted to do that. Just yank that pitch down in the zone. That fastball in, meant to be above the hands, above the swing. That's where you can have the right idea, but it all comes down to the execution.
A walk to Schaefer in his first plate appearance today. Nava into second base. So 2 walks this inning. When Eovaldi was on the mound, he went 5 1/3. He hit a batter. He walked 4. And now Shreve has dealt out a couple of walks here in the 7th.
Well, think about that. 6 walks and a hit batter. That's 7 free base runners for the Rays. Tough to win those games.
And Joe Girardi maybe thankfully is down by just a run. We'll step aside a pitching change here at the top of the 7th.
Visibly upset with himself.
Meanwhile, here's Adam Warren.
Adam Warren, one of those guys coming out of the bullpen with very good stuff and able to give Joe Girardi length if need be.
And a pinch hitter is Brandon Guyer. So as Joe Girardi goes to his bullpen, Kevin Cash goes to his bench. Guyer taking the spot of Sizemore, finishes 0 for 2 with a walk. Well, the story this year for Adam Warren was an interesting one from the standpoint of he began the year as a starter and absolutely flourished. He was eventually sent to the bullpen when Ivan Nova came back from injury, and really at the time you could make a very strong case and probably win it that he was the Yankees' most consistent, most dependable, most reliable starter. But it was simply a numbers crunch. He had 6 pitchers for 5 spots. Brian Cashman, Joe Girardi chose Warren to go back to the bullpen.
Well, showing that ability. He'd been out there before.
Right.
And he's a guy that Joe Girardi knew that he could make that transition. And really, it's a nice problem to have when you've got that many quality pitchers on one staff.
And then you add to it about 2 months later, Severino coming up, and as flourished as he has. Run below warming up. A 1-2 to Guyer. Jams him off the hands. It's 1-2 still. Now the Rays have had 3 separate base runners. The first 3 hitters here in the 7th inning without a hit. And they're trying to cash in. Easy pop up. Brendan Ryan makes a 2-hand catch.
Boy, and not an easy play for Brendan Ryan. You know, that's almost a play you'd like to see Carlos Beltran take. Yeah, Brendan Ryan saying I had a hard time finding that. It's a high sky. It's over his head, kind of out of that no man's land, and you can see him right here. When a guy does that, you start to panic.
Maybe not so easy after all. He's able to recover. Big exhale there.
Wow. Tells you all you need to know about that play.
Nava stays at second. Schaefer, who walked at first. 2 outs. Here's Forsythe. This has obviously been a disappointing day for Logan Forsythe. He has made, well, not 1 but 2 outs.
Only 1 for 3. I mean, that average has taken a nosedive. Well, he set the bar so high on this road trip. He's been there all season long.
Looks at a strike to make it 1-1. And think about it, a 5-game hitting streak entered today for Forsythe. He was 12 for 18 in those 5 games. Pretty good numbers against Adam Warren in his career. His 10 at-bats. Two outs and 2 on. Rays looking for more. Tampa Bay 4.5 games outside the second wild card, which of course the top wild card spot entering today held by the Yankees, but New York has its sights set on the division title in the East. Half a game behind the Blue Jays. Tied them up.
And that makes perfect sense. You know, you think about the wild card. You win the division, you get a division series. The wild card, it's a 1 game. It's a do or die. Nobody wants that.
Don't be fooled by the success of last year's 2 wild card winners who met in the World Series. They made it look maybe a little bit easier. The 2-2. cuts right through it. Adam Warren out of the bullpen gets out of a sticky situation. The Rays have to go to the bottom of the 7th. We go to the stretch having stranded 2 base runners, leading by a run. Luis Severino and 3 home runs. Rays trying to even the score today. We have Jose Perella pinch hitting in the number 9 spot for Brendan Ryan. And he looks at a first pitch strike. Perella, 25 years old, out of Venezuela. Cup of coffee last year with the Yankees in the big leagues. Has seen some time this season as well. So Daniel misses to make it 1-2. We have a new catcher as well for Tampa Bay. It is Rene Rivera. Takes over for Maile. And Brandon Guyer stays in the game in left field. Soft tapper and foul. So far, this Rays pitching staff, which was Moore for 4 2/3, Gomes for a third of an inning. Now Cedeno has been able to hold this Yankees lineup, which is the 2nd most potent in baseball, to just 2 runs, which has made Jim Hickey, the pitching coach, very pleased so far. Brian, you get the sense when you talk to folks around the game that when you speak of the most highly regarded pitching coaches in baseball, Hickey's name is right up there near the top, isn't it?
Well, you know what? The proof is really in his pitchers, in his pitching staffs, what they're able to accomplish, his ability to communicate with the pitching staff. Think about how many guys that are under Jim Hickey during the course of a season. I mean, you've got your 12 or 13 man bullpen, then you've got all the guys that have come up, get called up. He's got to put together game plans. He's got to be able to relate to each guy, and just continues to have guys go out there and have great years. You think about a guy like Erasmo Ramirez coming over and what he was able to do with Erasmo Ramirez, Nathan Carnes, the development of Chris Archer, who you can only tell by his hair.
That's the shot of the day.
There's just absolutely no doubt, though, that
what
who that
size?
is.
What is it? Do you know the size of the hat?
Well, here's what I do know. The hat has been since opening day. The hair's continued to blossom, to develop. The hat has stayed the same. It's his gamer. And so it really is a brawl on the mound between the hair and the hat during the course of one of his outings.
It's Perella looking. Blossom is a really good word for that, Brian.
No, I mean, you can just...
It is the Chia Pet effect.
That's true. And it just continues to unfold and unfurl. And there's more and more of it as the season's gone on. I mean, that's an impressive lid right there.
Well, the Yankees will have to face off against that man tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which makes today's game for the Yankees even more important if they want a chance to go into tomorrow with a chance for a series win. Ivan Nova will go for New York. Back at the top of the order, here is Gardner. Gardner now 32 years old, an all-star for the first time in his 8-year big league career. All have been with the Yankees. When you look up and down the lineup card for the Yankees on a day-by-day basis, even a year-by-year basis, well, there aren't often many times that you can say drafted, developed, and became an all-star, all in Yankees pinstripes. You see so many veterans who have come over through free agency or through trade. Gardner does not fit that mold as he looks at a 2-1 count now. Double barreled action inside the Yankees bullpen.
See that Betances over there on the far left, Nick Rumbelow in the foreground, and you start to realize this is going to be about what the score is when this inning comes to an end.
2-2 after a big swing and a miss from Gardner. Gardner was not heavily recruited out of high school, really not even at all. He's from South Carolina. Knew he wanted to stay near home. He either wanted to play for Clemson or the College of Charleston, which is where he ended up going. Had a very good collegiate career. But he has really become a mainstay here in the Bronx.
No, he's got that ability to give you a very tough at bat, works the count, sees a lot of pitches. Another guy who will use the whole field, but not afraid to turn on some balls and hit for occasional power, and not just here at Yankee Stadium.
A breakout power year last season. He had 17 bombs. He's got 13 this year. On the infield, finding the sun a little bit. Schaefer out, number 2.
Well, you know it's a tough sky when you've got guys out there with glasses on and then they're still using either the glove or the hand to continually shade those eyes.
The eye black, the sunglasses, the glove. That kind of a day, but a beautiful day here. As we'll step aside, we've got a pitching change. 2 outs and nobody on here in the bottom of the 7th. To Bay, a starter earlier this year and has really flourished.
Yeah, much like Adam Warren. Comes from the starting rotation, goes out to the bullpen, has slowly but surely worked his way towards the back end. He has electric stuff, a big fastball, good slider. He's taken on some high leverage innings for the Rays.
And he faces a pinch hitter. It is Jacoby Ellsbury. Ellsbury did not start today because he had to exit last night's game with flu-like symptoms and a very upset stomach. But Joe Girardi said that he would be available today if needed, and here he is. Oh, 0-2 quickly. Ellsbury taking the spot of Chris Young. Young finishes 0-2 with a walk. And he ties him up on 3 pitches. Rivera completes a strikeout. And that'll be it for the Yankees. A pretty quick and tidy bottom of the 7th. Meanwhile, Gardner shifts over to left field. Familiar territory. And Brendan Ryan, who's lifted for a pinch hitter. It is Stephen Drew at second base for the Yankees. And Nick Rumbelow, the new pitcher up on the mound for New York, taking over for Adam Warren, who was very impressive.
Rumbelow limited work on for the 11th time. 9 strikeouts, 9 2/3 innings.
He faces his dribble Cabrera to begin things. Put the shift on for Cabrera. Cabrera drove in 2 of the Rays' 3 runs with 1 swing. That was back in the 3rd inning. Tampa Bay has not scored since. And it maintains a 1-run lead.
Let me ask your professional opinion here on Nick Rumbelow. Would you consider this a full out, all or nothing type delivery? I mean, you talk about maximizing what you have. The way that he reaches that ball back out of the glove. Max effort.
Brian, first of all, let me say that I'm disappointed it took you 7 full innings to ask for my professional opinion.
It's because you've been wearing me out all morning and all afternoon.
I cannot disagree with that. 2-1 from Rumbelow. Well, you know, There are some guys who are free and easy. There are other guys who are high effort, and this is high effort delivery.
Boy, look at how he just really reaches back right over that stiff front leg. Everything he's got on every pitch.
Almost a little mechanical as well. This is lifted to right. Doesn't take much to get out. It's right at the wall and caught there by Beltran. Well, with one out, let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. All right, KB, good to know what's coming up. Boy, Price, 14-5 now this year. 8 strikeouts over 7 innings. ERA beneath 2.5.
I mean, what more could you ask for? True definition of an ace.
There's Loney with 1 out. Loney on a skip there to Gregorius. 2 outs. We were talking earlier about Chris Archer, the young starter that the Yankees will see tomorrow. And you can't talk to Chris Archer without automatically sensing the presence that he felt during his time in the Rays clubhouse with David Price. I mean, David Price, and it's really become a pitching fraternity in Tampa Bay, and Price is certainly one of the most notable to come through there. But you talk about guys who have learned from Alex Cobb, from David Price, and now Archer is getting to a point where he's able to start passing some things along. It's pretty impressive. As we were talking about Jim Hickey earlier, it's not just the pitching coach.
No, it really is, and it started with with David Price and James Shields.
Has to hurry to get Kiermaier, and he's out.
We'll see. I bet you the Rays are going to want to take a look at this one.
It would in the inning. Kevin Cash above the dugout steps right away, and they'll rewind the DVR and see what they've got.
Well, Kevin Kiermaier, who runs so well, and he's saying right now, take a look at it. That ball in the hole. You force Gregorius to move to his right and throw across his body, and we know that he has a strong arm. This was quite the battle, so we'll see. This one may get overturned. That ball bouncing up into the glove of Greg Bird, and I think that Kiermaier right there able to get that foot down before the ball's in the back of the glove. Boy, that's as bang bang as you can get, but it looks like maybe advantage Kiermaier. We'll see. That's the thing. It's got to be clear and convincing.
And you can still, on that shot, you can still see the ball outside of the glove.
Yep.
As his foot pounds the bag. But one thing we do know about instant replay is that so much depends on what the call was initially ruled.
That's right. When you get those really bang bang types of plays, then you're right, that the call on the field is typically what they're going to go with, and this certainly fits that category. So this will be an interesting call.
And you have to remember, as you are umpiring at home watching this, that on a play like this, the ball has to touch the back of the glove. It cannot be encompassed by the glove, so to speak. And here we go. He's safe. That's overturned. 2-out infield single. And there's no doubt the speed that Kiermaier has in the outfield translates to the bases awfully well.
Well, he gets to top end speed as good as anybody in the game, and he's starting to realize what an asset that is. And so you talk about the thumb injury, shortening the stroke, realizing just put the ball in play. If I put the ball in play, I've got a chance. That's a ground ball to shortstop that he's able to beat out.
Rene Rivera climbs in for his first at bat today. Took over for Maile, the rookie catcher. 2 outs, Kiermaier at first.
And keep your eye on Kevin Kiermaier, too. One of the stolen base threats in this Rays lineup, leading the team 16 out of 19. Rays like to be aggressive on the base paths with a lead. And 2 outs. Try to get that runner in scoring position.
Pitch out.
Thinking right along with us.
Joe Girardi, the former catcher, now in his 8th season, leading the Yankees. Here comes the 1-1. Watch out. Rivera has to spill down to his wallet. Kiermaier easily into second.
Well, you have a pitcher that's worrying an awful lot about Kevin Kiermaier over at first base. We saw the pitch out. We saw right there was hold, hold, hold. You lose a little bit of rhythm to the plate and miss very badly. Right over the head of Rene Rivera. Well, you don't have to worry about the stolen base now.
That took care of it. Two and two.
A good off-speed pitch there by Rumbelow. Good arm speed. Take a few miles per hour off. Get right back in the count. You set yourself up, too, to go right back to that pitch. I would not hesitate.
Now, the Rays have not scored since the 3rd inning yet. They hold a 1-run lead. Thump to left. Gardner now in left field. He's back by the wall. Does he have the room? He makes the catch. That is a loud way to end the top of the 8th. And a fine catch made by Gardner, who began the game in center field. But Gardner up against the wall, leaving his feet to end the top of the 8th. We go to the bottom half, and it is A-Rod who with one swing can tie this game up. And he faces Alex Colomé. Right up the middle. They had the shift on. Forsythe gobbles it up for a quick out, number 1.
Now that's precisely why you do it. That ball off the bat, you're thinking rocket base hit, leadoff runner aboard. Take it. You got Logan Forsythe right there, playing up the middle. Boom. A step and a half to his left and able to make the play easy.
1 out on 1 pitch. And here's Beltran. They put the shift on for Beltran. That has got to be at least the 3rd out today, Brian, if not more, where Forsythe has had a ball hit right to him, as this is Smoke to Loney, right on cue.
Well, and listen, this is exactly what the shift allows you to do. It allows you to take your first baseman and put him right over there on the line. Look where he's at. I mean, he's barely in fair territory.
This is a self-defense class right there.
Yeah, who caught who?
But you have to wonder a little bit more in the case of Forsythe, but in that's a good example too. When you look at today's defensive metrics on judging how much range a fielder can cover, well, at some point you have to take into account the shift, because otherwise there's been at least 3 circumstances where Logan Forsythe has ranged to the 3rd base side of second.
Yeah.
But really he's moved about a half step.
Right, and because of where he is now. You see where with Carlos Beltran, he was a little bit further out into shallow right field because it gives him more range and you're not worried about the foot speed of Beltran.
Headley with 2 outs and nobody on. Colomé began the year as a starter, but before his year even began, had visa problems getting to spring training, then had pneumonia, was laid up in the hospital for a long time. Pitched out of the rotation for a while for Kevin Cash, now in the bullpen. Pitching very well in relief.
Well, and when he went to the bullpen, that's a whole new role for him. And so the first couple of outings did not go very well as he transitioned. You know, as a starter, everything is accounted for. You know what time you're going to warm up. You know your whole routine. You get it down. Bullpen, it's different. Phone rings. Your name gets called. You've got to be ready to go. And he has transitioned into that role very well and pitched so well that Kevin Cash not afraid to go to him in these one-run games in the 8th, in the 9th inning from time to time.
Both Yankees runs coming in the 5th. Gregorius a double, Gardner an infield ground out. 2-2 to Headley. You can see the shadows really creeping over home plate in the circle right now.
You need a few more feet out before they really start to come into play, because right now the hitter, in this case Chase Headley, is making his mind up to swing before that ball hits the shadows. And so when those shadows start to creep out and they get around that halfway point, now the time to make your judgment on whether to swing. The ball's going from light to dark. Not quite yet.
Headley now 31 years old. Bird on deck. Headley with that fantastic season back in 2012. Gold Glove winner, Silver Slugger winner in the National League with the Padres. Colome's 3-2. Colome threw 3 pitches to get the first 2 outs. Both times helped out by the shift behind him, but now in a little bit of a battle with Headley. The Yankees needing just 1 run to tie it up. This is pretty high leverage pitching for Colome. Here comes pitch number 8. Up the middle and a base hit. Headley is aboard with 2 outs, and the Yankees have the tying run at first, and they bring the go-ahead run up to the plate.
A really nice job by Chase Headley working that count, fouling off some tough pitches. Got one down and out over he could handle. Doesn't try to pull it. Uses the middle of the field, hits a nice line drive to center field, and keeps this inning going for the Yankees.
Brings in Greg Bird. Two outs, tied run at first base. Bird jumps on the first pitch and pops it up. This will find the seats though. Strike 1. Bird has played in less than 20 games this year. One and one. Bird a home run last night, a home run the game before when he was playing in Boston. Now 3 home runs last night by the Yankees, and this one by Bird.
Boy, that was after swinging over that split earlier in the at-bat. He got one that stayed up a little bit, did not miss it.
He has Headley at first base, 2 outs. And you wonder, for a young player like Bird, a young left-handed hitter like Bird, in a high leverage situation like this, and you saw what he did last night, and you know how easy it is if you get the right swing on it to poke one over the fence in right field, to try to stay within yourself a little bit.
That's exactly right. You got to realize you're strong enough. Get the barrel to the baseball and it will fly, especially on an afternoon like this. You try to do too much, you come out of your mechanics and things don't go well.
Count stays put, 2 balls and 2 strikes. The Blue Jays winning today behind David Price, which makes a come from behind win even more important for the Yankees to try to keep pace. The Yankees have not had the lead today. And the 2-2. A full count.
Well, and that was the action pitch. That's where Colome wants to make something happen, because now if that fastball, he lays off of it, it does not get called. It's a close pitch, very close pitch. But now that allows Chase Headley to be in motion here with 2 outs.
Headley, the 2-out single. There he goes, the 3-2 the opposite way. Geyer has to play it on a hop and a bobble. This gives an extra base. Headley to third. The Yankees in business, back-to-back 2-out base runners, and they get some help from Geyer, who came off the bench and is now in left field for Sizemore.
Brandon Geyer closed ground too quickly. You know, he's thinking about making a catch and ending this inning. And as he gets too close to the ball, it's now going to short hop. He decides to pull up, which was the wise decision. And then that hop off the glove. Chase Headley, you see right there, I'm trying to back up because he was so aggressive coming in. And Chase Headley off and running. Now this play is going to happen right out in front of him. Okay, I'm going to hold up there. Uh-oh. Ball gets away, and now I get to third.
McCann coming on to pinch hit. And go back to early July against Tampa Bay. 1 swing and a walk-off win he gave the Yankees.
Well, down and in to a left-handed hitter. Brian McCann has tormented the Rays.
Long conversation up on the mound. Jim Hickey, the pitching coach.
Well, and you wonder here, is Jim Hickey out there giving instructions to Alex Colome, or is he buying time for the shadows?
And continued to creep out a little bit more towards the mound.
And that's when you start to get into the territory it's going to affect.
Runners on the corners, 2 outs. Yankees a tying run at third base. The go-ahead at first. And here is McCann. On the season it has been for McCann. 23 homers, over 80 RBIs. Two and 0. Gregorius would be next. The first 2 batters for the Yankees were retired on 3 pitches. It has been a different story since. McCann well in the driver's seat, 3-0.
3 straight off-speed pitches. The first 2 borderline. Good job by Brian McCann showing discipline, being selective, and now in the driver's seat. And he's the type of guy, if he gets the pitch that he wants, 3-0, he will be swinging.
Here it comes. Check swing. And he goes around. Joe West, the crew chief.
He was ready to turn it loose 3-0. This ball's down. He realizes it late, and that bat had a little bit too much movement for Joe West. Well, the first two fastballs by Alex Colomé, he's going to fly open and lead 2-0. He gets right back into the zone. Good pitch there. And then this one, how about that? That ball was lined. Didi Gregorius did not even get out of the batter's box. That's how hard he hit this ball, and realizes already it's been caught. You can understand this. That's really the only spot where Forsythe was going to catch that ball. It was hit so hard, a couple feet left or right, that ball gets into the outfield.
Brian McCann stays in the game, takes over behind home plate for John Ryan Murphy. And James Pazos up on the mound for the Yankees.
See his numbers from the minor leagues. 42 2/3 innings, 49 strikeouts. That opponent's average jumps out at you at just 192. The Yankees need a 0 put up here.
And a pinch hitter, Joey Butler, takes over for Daniel Nava in the number 2 spot. Now you have to figure for Didi Gregorius, you think back to the last game when he had a similar situation, Gregorius in Boston on Monday. The bases loaded, 9th inning, and he flew out to the wall in right field as Butler sends it to center with some carry. Ellsbury, who was not in the starting lineup today, tracks it down. Round number 1.
Well, and a nice job there by Jacoby Ellsbury. That ball was well struck, but he turned and started running towards the center field wall. Then looked back up, found the ball, and made the catch. Didn't drift.
One quick out. So here is Nava. Butler taking the spot of Jaso in the order. On 1 on Nava. Walked and scored back in the 3rd. Now this Rays team very different this year in a number of ways, specifically at the top. And for more on that, we check in with Ken.
Well, Aaron, we talked about the Yankees earlier, the job Brian Cashman has done. Well, remember, the Rays lost Andrew Friedman, their general manager, to the Dodgers, replaced by Matt Silverman. They lost Joe Madden, their manager, to the Cubs, replaced by Kevin Cash. They've had a ton of injuries, as you guys mentioned earlier, and yet Cash has done a pretty remarkable job. And talking to the players, you'll hear that. Evan Longoria mentioned to me yesterday that his ability to communicate has been outstanding. And in Longoria's view, it even goes so far as to pay off in performance. Now, a lot of statistical people would not buy that, but what Longoria is saying is that their younger players are so confident and so comfortable with the environment here that they're playing better. And keep in mind as well, the Rays have needed a steady hand. They've used 51 players, one shy of the club record, and that includes a club record 18 rookies.
That's incredible. The rookie, which stands out more, all the players, one shy of the club record, as Ken said, or nearly 20 rookies, and this is a team that's in the wild card hunt.
Yeah, no, there's no question that there is a system in place and an environment that has been created that guys will thrive in. And I'll tell you what, I agree with what Evan Longoria said. And, Ken said maybe some of the numbers guys would not buy into that, ability to communicate, comfortable atmosphere leading to better performance. But I'm going to tell you, it's the old, look good, play good, feel comfortable in your own skin, comfortable with the coaching staff. They're encouraging you. That will get the best out of you. And that's what the Rays have seen happen all season long. Pretty amazing they're even in this position.
You're talking about all the players used. Nava began the season in the division, but with the Red Sox, now with Tampa Bay. And looks at a 1-2 count. Pazos, the 4th reliever today for the Yankees. And back of Eovaldi, who went 5 1/3. The life story of Daniel Nava is rivaled by few. Could barely make his high school team, junior college, then made his way through independent ball, and then was a household name for about 15 minutes when he hit the first pitch that he ever saw in the big leagues for a grand slam at Fenway Park off of Joe Blanton years ago. With one out, the Rays would love to give themselves a little more breathing room when we go to the bottom of the ninth. It'll be 9-1-2 due up for the Yankees. Gets him looking, rings him up with a fastball, 2 outs.
Wow, low flying.
Now you can see Nava's reaction.
Now that was the perfect pitch. Down and in, just same plain zip. Kneecaps corner.
That is it for Nava. That is it for Pazos. We've got a pitching change, 2 outs, bases empty, top of the ninth. It is Andrew Bailey making only his second appearance of the season, and a second ever with the Yankees. And Brian, this was a guy that was a 2-time All-Star the first 2 years of his career. American League Rookie of the Year, the closer for the Oakland A's, and then very complicated shoulder surgery. That's been the most recent injury for Bailey.
Yep, and shoulder surgery is not easy. Not easy to come back from, and you're right, very complicated. But here he is. I think he's looking at him to get one big out here in the ninth.
Schaefer took over for Longoria, who had to exit the game with a pretty serious bruise on his forearm after being hit by a pitch. It'll be interesting to see what his status is tomorrow. Now for Bailey, you think about his brief time in Oakland, then traded over to Boston in the division here in the American League East. And things went south almost right away in a Red Sox uniform as he was injured in spring training, colliding, covering first base, jamming his wrist. And really overall did not spend much time pitching over 2 years with the Red Sox. Found his way to New York. But unfortunately, until Bailey can prove that he can stay healthy and pitch effectively like he did when he first burst onto the scene in 2009, for Bailey it has turned out to be a story of what could have been based on what we saw his first couple of years. Full count. Line drive, but pulled foul. Bailey once again with a 3-2, and he lost him. It's a 2-out walk. Bailey walks the first man that he sees.
That was a lot of off speed in that sequence there by Bailey, and he ends up yanking a slider off the plate.
There was Geyer who took over for Sizemore. mentioned earlier for the Rays, amazing that they are even in the discussion for the wild card, given the injuries, given all the rookies, nearly 20 they've had to use. And then you can take it a step further with the offense. Last in the American League in runs scored, 28th in baseball. They don't hit many home runs. Snagged there by Bailey. And that'll do it. Schaefer stranded. We go to the bottom of the ninth. The Yankees down by 1 and down to their final 3 outs.
Brad Boxberger 33 out of 38. ERA 3.40. Big strikeout numbers. Fastball changeup is what gets it done for Boxberger.
First pitch to Stephen Drew. Missing for ball 1. And Brian, Boxberger might lead the American League in saves, but that does not mean that there have not been some close moments for Boxberger.
No, including his last time out. That was against the Baltimore Orioles. Gave up a 2-run home run to Jonathan Scope in the bottom of the ninth to tie that game. Baltimore would go on to win it on a home run by Chris Davis. So there have been some moments, but when he's able to command the fastball, he'll get it 93, 94, 95, and that changeup down around 80. He gives you a big differential in velocity.
Yankees bench hoping for a tie, if not a walk-off win. Kiermaier against the sun, and he wins for out number 1. Now the producer of today's game is Bill Boland, and the director is John Wilson. The associate directors are Mike Medvin and Jackie Toohey, and the broadcast associate Brandon Shapiro. The technical director of this game today, Seth Zwiebel, and our tech manager, Craig Marlowe, and our fantastic statistician, James Smythe. And then there's Brian. 1 out, and here is Brett Gardner. Well, in a situation like this, Brian, you have to bring up the point that the Rays have 11 walk-off losses, the most that any team has suffered in baseball. And they go to the bottom of the ninth here. Boxberger has gotten out number 1, but the Yankees more than within striking distance.
Well, by virtue of the fact that you've got the short porch in right field, you've got a left-handed hitter at the plate, a guy that's also built around some speed, can run. They absolutely, and a 1-run game. I mean, you're 1 swing away, so Brad Boxberger is going to have to be very good. No margin for error.
The Rays this year are 500 on the road, and it's incredible. Exactly a third of their losses on the road have come in a walk-off fashion.
Another byproduct of playing tight games. You put yourself into those positions, and more often than not, they've gone against the Rays.
Once again, towards Kiermaier, and when you're playing against the Rays, you don't want to hit it to center field.
A bad strategy. Very bad strategy.
He could win the Gold Glove this year. Yankees down to their final out. And it is Jacoby Ellsbury who began this game on the bench. Had to be pulled from last night's game with flu-like symptoms, which was much better than what many thought it might have been initially, which was possibly a hip injury. Strike 1. Boxberger looking for save number 34. 0-2. Boxberger a strike away. Here's 0-2. Center field once again towards the gap. There is Geyer to put it away, and the Rays win it by a run. Boxberger the save, and Tampa Bay has even up the series. Thanks for joining us. Our final score, Rays 3, Yankees 2. Now let's send it back to Kevin.